Hi, everyone. So as Nathan mentioned, my name is Renee Plain. I am the co-owner of In Plain Sight Marketing, and I am moderating tonight's town hall. I'm going to go ahead and keep my screen off because I've got crazy kids who like to interject themselves into everything I do. So the purpose for tonight's event is for you guys to have an opportunity to get to know Nathan and ask him questions, and for him to have a chance to connect with you, his neighbors. Some general information for tonight. We have everyone muted for the town hall just to make it just a little bit easier on managing this thing. Nathan is currently planning on holding town halls each Thursday at 6:30 until the week prior to Election Day, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So if you have friends that weren't able to attend tonight, please share the word that we will be doing this again next week. We are recording tonight's town hall meeting, and it will be shared on Nathan's website and social channels for those unable to attend. And we would love for you to share those to anyone that might find this interesting. We've received quite a few questions via email and direct message on Facebook, which we'll be answering tonight. And then last week we had a lot of really great questions from the chat box, and we would love to get more for tonight. We are scheduled to wrap up at the 1 hour mark. To keep us on track, I'll be watching the time and plan to end on time because we want to be respectful of your schedules tonight. And I think that's it. So Nathan, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Perfect. So let's go with our first question, which came through Facebook. What are your thoughts on the Board of County Commissioners' decision to deliver a letter to Governor Sislak at the Capitol building this morning?
Well, I think it was a great thing. I was right there. I followed along and stood outside when everybody cheered, and I kind of trailed along and filmed it, went live this morning. I think it's important that we remind Governor Sislak that there is a difference between Douglas County and the large communities, and that we have not been affected like some of the cities have been. And the curve is different for different areas. And so there should be, some recognition that not one solution fits everybody. So I think it was great that they went in there and tried to make a point of that he needs to pay attention and maybe grant us a little bit more leverage on our own society and our own group, our own community.
And a follow-up to that is obviously the governor had his press conference tonight where he talked about we may begin phase 1 of reopening on or by May 15th. And so what are your thoughts on his press conference tonight?
Well, I think it's a move in the right direction. I'm not sure that he kind of left it pretty vague on a lot of his answers. He said by the 15th. So does that mean we're waiting till the 15th, or does that mean we can start on the 1st with some of these protocols? I'd like to see us get moving as quickly as we can for especially some of the local businesses that have been shut down. It's time for them to be able to work in some capacity one way or another. It's going to get old, and I fear what happens the longer we go in the shutdown with some of these businesses that are totally unable to get moving. And besides that, there's so many different things that just don't make sense. Why can you go to the park but you can't go golf? I mean, there's some things out there that it just seems like somebody that's closer to the ground should be able to answer and acknowledge, which to me is your local governments, your local sheriffs, those kind of people that should be able to address those issues directly. And I'd like to see him, maybe allow us to start to regain, which is in a manner that's appropriate for our community. So I think it's a good step, but I'd of course like to see more. I'd like to see some places open tomorrow if they could, as long as they're following protocol.
Here is another question that came in via email. Why have you aligned yourself with Larry Walsh and Danny Tarkanian?
Yes, I've heard that quite a bit. And I mean, the simple question is that I haven't necessarily aligned myself with them. I feel like I'm getting support from a lot of the same people that support them. Um, I, I, I was planning to do this or thought about doing this way back in July of last year. And it started with the fire sprinkler ordinance and how I saw that information that was presented to the board was not accurate. And it was based on outside groups, agencies. Some of it came from Vegas, and it didn't necessarily apply or have the data that was reflective of Douglas County and the information that I knew. And so at that point, I kind of made a joking remark about, hey, if they don't research what is applicable to Douglas County, I should run. And then it kind of rolled into that, and I started thinking very seriously about that. And some of the people I talked to, I was told, hey, I don't know that you'll get a lot of support because you have an incumbent in there. And I said, well, I want to do this anyway, regardless of who is in there or not in there. I feel like it's something that needs to happen. And I stepped up at that point, and then we kind of found out later that Mr. Penzel wasn't going to rerun, and it just kind of seems like that I was picked or promoted to or something like that, but that's absolutely not the case. It's something that I wanted to do, and I actively pursued a lot of the endorsements and the support and the advice since the beginning of this. And it just seems, that I'm aligned with those guys because the people that support me are the same that support them, and vice versa. So if you look at my signs, you'll see my signs with them, and you'll also see my signs by themselves, and you'll even see my signs next to the other guys that are out there. So I'm not going to say that I'm necessarily aligned with anybody, because I'm trying to be aligned with the county. I said that from the beginning. I want what's best for Douglas County, and that's where I'm going to try to do.
That leads right into the other question that we got via Facebook was, can you tell me which groups you have endorsed you and which one group endorsement you are most proud of?
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's not an easy one. The beginning is pretty easy. The groups that have endorsed me, so we have the Sheriff's Union, the Fire Union, the Douglas County Employees Association, the Chamber of Commerce, several individuals, a lot of past commissioners, because they see that I've come out and I went to them. I said, what's going on? I have my folder here beside me, so I'd have some data and my notes to back up to, but I've been speaking to a lot of different people to find out what's really going on and what needs to happen. So that's the endorsements have been coming, I think, because people understand that, I'm who I am, and that I'm not a politician. I'm learning, but I'm not a politician, and I just want to do what's right and preserve what we've got going here. And man, for what's the most important one, that's hard to say. I would have to say, lump the public employees. So I'm going to kind of lump all of those guys together, because they recognize that ultimately I have some oversight of the people that oversee the day-to-day activities. And I think they know that I was a public employee, and I understand what that means. And I support our public employees, and be that our first responders and our all of our county employees. So I'm sorry if that's vague, but I'm going to say that all three of those public employee groups. But it's also not to short the small businesses, because we are one, my wife and I. So and my partner in our construction company. So yeah, or engineering company. Sorry, we don't build, we design. But so yeah, I guess that would have to be my the one that I'm most proud of.
We got a question from chat. What kind of response would you have if COVID-19 started to take hold in Douglas County?
Response would I guess I'm not sure what they're talking about, as in like what would the the county action be, or what response would I personally
I think
have?
let's go from, if you were a seated county commissioner, what would your response be? And then also, what would your response be as a private individual too?
Well, we'd have to do what we could to ease the burden. So, you know, if we needed to activate the community center as the first aid center, that would be what we would do. I know that there was some talk about the county buying masks so that we could have them available for all of the community residents. So we'd have to take action and get the help that we need so that we could answer and help as many people as we possibly could. Um, but I mean, that's not something I have a lot of experience. Well, I guess nobody really does, but that would be my first thing is what do we need to do to ease the burden? And then we have to also always keep our mind on the future and what are we going to do once we move past this? You have to have those two things, you know, today and tomorrow in mind all the time.
This question came from email. There is a great deal of interest in our county to encourage agrihood developments that include farms and conserve open space. What is your position on agrihood developments in Douglas County? And that was, yeah, what is your position on agrihood developments in Douglas County?
Well, agrihoods are something that's relatively new. They were new to me. And, you know, admittedly, my first thought was, what is this idea? Is this, is this going to be kind of granola that people want to grow their own food and that kind of stuff? And the more I've read, learned, talked to people who are themselves invested in the idea, I found that this is really a potential for solving a lot of the problems or issues that people are throwing out there about preserving our rural integrity, but also maintaining our growth and intelligent growth. You know, if we're able to cluster our communities, that makes it more efficient for the developers to build and keep our housing costs down. At the same time, we're preserving areas of agriculture. We could possibly still have, you know, flood irrigation that's going to help replenish the aquifer. So there's a lot of things that, a lot of potential upsides to this idea of these agrihoods. And so I'm definitely interested in finding out more. The nuts and bolts of it, I have a lot of questions about. You know, who runs these open spaces, who gets to use them. If you were able to allow one of the local ranchers to continue to grow hay on it or run their cows in these big open space areas, and then the residents, you know, they get to live, you know, in that rural setting and sit on their back porch and watch the cows graze. I mean, that's seems like it could possibly feed everybody's issue all at once. So I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely in support so far, but we definitely have a lot more information needs to be found, and I'm definitely looking into that at the moment.
We got another question from the chat. Tyson just announced the food supply chain is broken. What more can we do here to feed ourselves?
Well, that's, you know, one of those things that we're kind of blessed where we are because we do have that ranch community. The Anderson Ranch, they're providing beef and lamb. And if you check out social media and watch some of those guys, I can't think of the name of the other ranch right now, but I believe they were just distributing from the community center or from the museum, something like that. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but we do have that distribution. There's also the local dairy that was offering, and I believe they're going to be giving out milk to residents. So if you get out there, there's a lot of ability to self-sustain in the valley. But also we are somewhat rural. We just planted our garden this weekend. So we're going to be having hopefully a couple of weeks, we'll have some plants up, and, you know, another month or so, we'll be able to, you know, feed our own table with some of that. So there is that ability here in Douglas County that we have ranchers and ag in effect that's already moving forward. And so I think that'll help us out.
Well, I think that moves right into this next question we got via email is, what are you going to do to preserve our quiet rural community?
Okay. Well, first, I guess I don't agree with that question 100%. I grew up here, I've done a lot, and I wouldn't necessarily say that we have a quiet rural community. We do have that atmosphere, but I have a totally different view. I think we have a vibrant, active community here. Yesterday, I drove through town. There was people sitting in Minden Park having lunch. I see people jogging out, walking constantly. We have you been to a football game on Friday night? The stands are packed. It's standing room only. The community center. How many events are going on in there? There's dance classes. There's things going on. Then add the youth sports going on. Go to Aspen Park. Drive by Lampe Park on weeknights and see how many people are out there. The hiking, the ranching, the equestrian. I mean, there's things going on all the time. And so for somebody to say, hey, we're just quiet and rural, I don't think we're just quiet and rural. Yeah, we have that picturesque atmosphere, but there's a lot more going on in Douglas County than that. So how would I preserve it? I think we would continue to promote, our youth, continue to promote our community programs, support the community center, and then continue with the production of our housing, allow those housing to move forward that allows people to move here and retire and enjoy the atmosphere that we do present.
What causes can you contribute to make Douglas County more friendly to people entering the workforce? This came through email.
Wow, that's a tough one because that's a big problem around here. I spent some time with one of the executives at Starbucks, and they have, I believe he said 20 or so job openings all the time. They're having a hard time holding on to workers, and they've done a lot of things around here to help that. They know that they have people coming out of Dayton, they have people coming out of Fridley to work at the plant at Starbucks. So this is just one example. They've done things on their own to help offset that. They rent cars through Enterprise and have the people carpool, and Starbucks pays for that. They do a lot of stuff on their own. How do we get that back our ways? We've got to have housing. We've got to be able to allow people to live here and work here at the same time. We also need to promote our school system, the CTE program, the career and technical education. I spoke with the superintendent, and so the whole methodology, I guess, of teaching is changing. They're calling it epic learning. I actually have, hold on, bear with me for a second. Here it is. Issues of how they're trying to help. We recognize that there's not as many kids going out into the workforce or going to college, and a lot of them are entering right into the workforce. And so they're trying to get these kids prepared for the workforce. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to hold up a picture. So the classrooms need to mirror the workplace. So here's what the classrooms used to look like, because that's what the workforces used to look like. But now they look totally different. I hope that's coming across. I apologize if it's not. But now the workforce looks totally different. So, this is where we're headed for some of these career and technical. So, we are, we need to support our school system. And help them get our young kids ready to work. We also need to look into some kind of vocational and technical schools with all the different charter schools that are out there. We need to promote something that's looking more towards, what do they call it? Project-based learning, those kind of things that get our kids ready to go into the workforce and get that motivated. Because there are jobs around, but there's just not, there's not housing for the people to live here and fill those jobs.
Before I read this next question that was sent via Facebook Messenger, I just want to remind people who are listening, watching, to please use the chat area because I only have a couple more questions that were emailed or sent to us via Facebook, and I really do want to get your questions that you might have to Nathan. so he can answer them for you, because you're on this call because I'm sure you want to learn about Nathan and ask him something. And so please send those chats in so we can answer any questions that you might have. So the next question, which was sent in to us, is, do you feel Douglas County is divided right now?
Do I feel that we are divided? I don't think so. I feel like we are being pushed into division. With the RDA, people are trying to separate the lake from the valley. I feel like TRE has always been kind of left alone and not really given the credit that they have. But there's people choose different places in different areas of Douglas County for different reasons. And there's, if you go out like TRE, if you've ever seen a sunrise over the Ruby Mountains, you absolutely understand why people live in TRE. If you go out and hike and just spend time out in the middle of some of that sagebrush over there and the pine nuts and see what kind of activity there is, you think there's nothing. I dare you to go out and take a walk and just listen, stop, and look, and you'll see all kinds of activity with animals, insects. There's just so much going on. Then you go right up to Tahoe and you have the lake atmosphere. You have the people that live out on the edges and overlook, and they enjoy the quiet. So there's all different aspects of the valley, of the county, and every one of them is valid. And people come to different pieces for that, but we're all Douglas County. We all come together. We all pay taxes. They all go to the same services, and that's where we have to remember, is that everybody came to Douglas County for a reason, and it was usually to get away from where they were. And so we want to make sure that we maintain what we've got. And the only way to do that is to do it together. I mean, now with the COVID stuff, we're starting to recognize how important every different person is in this area. So are we divided? No. Are we pushing towards that? Maybe. And I would hate to see that.
Here's a follow-up question that I think would work well next from the chat is, what is your response to the negative campaign ads in today's newspaper?
I didn't read them. I knew that they were coming. I saw the stuff that was going out, and I just that's not me. So I'm not going to engage in that. I firmly believe that if you have the better answer, then you support your solution. If you're resorting to tearing down your opponent, then I question your point of view, because if you can't stand on what you believe in, and if that's not enough, and you have to tear down the other guy to make yours better, I mean, that's, we were taught that as kids. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. You should be able to sell yourself, and that's just the way I personally feel. I mean, I will definitely go back and do it, but it was not a priority for me today. So I have no idea what was out there. But that's what I'm focused on. I truly do want what's best for the community, and I am so adverse to tearing somebody else down to make yourself look better. I mean, it's just not my thing. And we'll see what happens if something comes my way, how I'll respond to it. I mean, things have happened already. There's been a lot of little things here and there. But it's just pick it up, move on, rise above, and let's get to being Douglas County and moving forward.
So, follow-up question, how do you plan on uniting the county and subsiding some of the divisiveness and tribalism in the community?
So the only way to do that is to reach out. You have to reach out. You have to talk, and you have to listen. More than anything, you have to listen, and you have to listen with an open mind and try to understand. I think I mentioned this before. You have to listen to what the person's saying, not how they're saying it. That was one of the things when I first started at the assessor's office. I went to a training of how to deal with difficult people, and it was necessary at that position because, like I said, nobody came to the assessor's office happy, unless it was the appraisers or real estate agents that were there looking for information. If it was the taxpayer, usually they were upset with, their taxes or something like that. So you had to understand the point of view and learn that people deliver their message in different ways. And maybe they don't deliver the way you'd like to hear it, but it doesn't mean their message is any less valid. So you have to listen to what's being said and what is the message, and you can't get upset about the delivery. It's just, and that's the way to get started. But you also have to go out there and ask. So you have to cross the line and talk to those people, even if you maybe don't respect their point of view, maybe don't, whatever, don't like how they deliver, who knows what. You have to go. You just have to do it. And if you don't, then you're going to stay on your side of the line, and we're never going to meet in the middle. So that's my answer to that is cross that line and listen.
Another question from chat. One of the largest problems facing our children as they grow into adulthood is that even if they find a job, there is a shortage of affordable housing, apartments, and rentals available for them to live here in Douglas County. This is forcing our young people and our young families out of our county. Do you feel this is a problem, and how can we address it?
I absolutely feel like this is a problem. And I happen to, we'll test this out here, Renee, see if I can get this thing back to, I've been doing a lot of research on what housing is, because it's been said that there is affordable housing, and from what I found is that there just simply isn't that much. So we're gonna try and see if I can share this screen. This is information that I found from the National Low Income Housing Coalition. They've done a lot of research. This one's called the Out of Reach, where they've gone and collected data, and they have information about housing in Douglas County. So we're gonna pop this thing back up and then try to share a screen. And I wanna share that one and share. Did it work? Can you see me?
Yes.
All right, so this is information about Douglas County and what number of households that we have, how many renters there are. So 31%, roughly based on their data, of the households in Douglas County are rented. What that wage looks like for people who are living in 0-bedroom homes, which would be studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. And so here's one that's very interesting to me is the fair market rent. So fair market rent for a studio in Douglas County is $658. A 1 bedroom is about $800. So I recently had a friend ask me, if I knew of any low-income housing for a friend of his, and so I called around to see what was there, and I found of the 3 different property managers that I talked to, I found 1 that was rented for $1,175 and 2 that were rented available for $1,200. And those were 2-bedroom rentals. This isn't owning, this is renting. So right there, the 2-bedroom, the average should be $1,024. Well, they were at $1,200. And then you come down here and look at what the annual income is needed to afford that 2-bedroom house. You need to earn $40,000, almost $41,000 to afford the rent on a $1,000 rent. So that tells me that that's not feasible. Then you start adding kids into this. And so how do you compensate for that? Well, if you have kids, you probably need a 2 or 3-bedroom home. So now you're bumping up into this $14,000, $1,400 a month. So now you're looking at needing, $60,000 worth of income. And they have a lot more information about that. How many, at the average wage, how many hours a week do you need to work in order to do that? So a 2-bedroom home, both people working, that seems like that's relatively feasible. 40 hours a week, you could probably have 2 people in there, something like that. So this is just some of the information that's out there. So I would say, no, we don't have it. We've got to find a way to get more. And that's going to be an issue. Where? That's going to be a big one. Where are we going to put that? People don't want that in their, all the NIMBYs, I guess, not in my backyard. People don't want that next to them. But I'm not talking low income. We're just talking about affordable for the workforce.
Okay, we've gotten quite a few coming in through chat now, so I want to make sure I get them in the order. Where did you grow up, and how did that shape your views about what is important to Douglas County?
So I was at a young age raised over the hill in Lockford. We had California. We had a 15-acre um, farm there. Both my parents worked, so my brothers mostly took care of the farm. I was 5 and 7 years younger than my brothers, so I got away with murder. They'll tell you I didn't do anything. Um, and then we moved to Nevada when we started building our house here when I was a sophomore in high school, freshman in high school. We started building here. So we were back and forth for a year and a half, and I moved here right before my junior year at Douglas. So my entire adult life has been here in Douglas High School, or in Douglas County. Graduated Douglas High School. I like to say I'm an honorary native because I graduated at Douglas. That's not a real thing, but that's what I like to say. So everything I've done, been through, experienced has been in Douglas County. So I've invested everything, every part of my adult life has been invested in Douglas County. I think I said last time, I didn't move here to retire. I moved here to live. My family moved away. I'm still here. My nearest is my mom up in Reno. Um, and everything I've done has been here, has been shaped by Douglas County and the people here in the community. I owe the community everything I have because that's, where it all came from was here. So in one way I have the biggest investment because everything I've done has been invested in Douglas County, but I also have the most to lose because I'm still here raising my family. I still have at least 5 years in the Douglas County school system with my kids. So I think that absolutely shapes who I am. The people I know in the Valley, everything that's come my way, every gift, every blessing I've ever had has been because of Douglas County and Carson City. So I think that has shaped everything that I
A follow-up question to that: what are your qualifications that would make you a good county commissioner?
am. Well, part of that is the research. That's one of those things that, growing up here, living here, you think you know what's going on, and you do to a point, but you don't know what you don't know. And the more people that I've talked to, the more questions I've found, the more things that I didn't realize before. And so what qualifies me is the fact that I have lived here. I've worked on both sides of the counter. I've been public and private. I've worked for the fire district. I've worked for the Carson City Sheriff's Office. So I understand a lot of what goes on. I have a huge amount of respect for what those guys do. I've also managed my own business with my wife, and I've worked for different construction companies. I've worked for the Washoe tribe. I credit them with saving my life, really, in mentally, because that was during the middle of the crash, and they gave me a job. They trusted me with their children. I saw how how they live, and it absolutely changed my life. So what I bring to the table is a knowledge and a passion for this area, and the fact that I'm going to find out as best I can what the proper solution is to whatever issue comes up, because I want to do the right thing and I want to make sure that this county survives, and so my children can move back here. And at this point, I'm not sure if they would be able to if something doesn't change in the way we look at the working family.
Um, can you elaborate on what affordable housing is to you? Being someone of a younger generation, I have seen many places say they offer or have, quote, affordable housing, but is still significantly out of many younger folks' budget.
Yeah, to me, that is a housing that is affordable to the wage you're making. And I've heard it said, we didn't start out buying a house, we had to rent and save. Well, right now, with the way the housing prices are, you can rent, but it's sucking up your entire paycheck. So you're not able to save. So I understand that. So to me, I'm not talking about low income subsidized. I'm just talking about something that is affordable to somebody who's willing to work and pay for that. You know, if we're in the days that double income houses is necessary, and that's fine. I'm not saying a handout free low income subsidized housing. That we have a lot of housing just north of us that provides some of that. So is it appropriate for Douglas County? I'm not sure. We need to do a housing study. That's the big deal. And but for me, what affordable housing is something that the average workforce family can afford and um, and work to afford. So, and right now, it just isn't there. I mean, we've got the numbers, and I'm doing more research. A lot of the property management companies I've talked to are absolutely willing to help me with some of the numbers of what they manage, how much is out there, how much is rented. But we know that there's not a lot of vacant. It's just not available. So that would be my definition. What is affordable by a working family um, or working individuals, young people too, you know, coming into the workforce? What can they afford and how can they live?
In one of your recent previous answers tonight, you mentioned your research. How do you plan on communicating your research to other public officials and work as a team to create meaningful change in Douglas County?
Well, that kind of goes back to one of the other answers is crossing the line. You've got to go over and talk. And just because I've done some research doesn't mean I have the answers. Um, I do believe that data drives decisions, but that doesn't mean I have the answer. You have to go and share what you know and listen to what the other people have. I spent some time with the street superintendent, and he gave me an hour of his time. Quite a while ago, and it helped me understand what was going on with the streets and what they have done and how much better it was, even though you know, they get a bad rap about not maintaining the streets. And I asked him about that, and he said, we don't. We have issues. You know, we can only do so much with what we have, and this is what we have. And so that's how you do it. You have to go listen to what is the problem, what do you need to be able to resolve that problem, and then we have to step back and say, what can we do to move towards that direction? And those are not going to be easy answers. Or not. Nothing is, I don't think, is a simple solution. Like I said, the more people I talk to, the more questions I find. So that would be my simple answer: is cross a line and share what you have, and listen to what the needs are and what their potential solutions are, and then find what works and meet somewhere. Usually, hopefully, it's going to be somewhere in the middle.
Your opponent views you as not having stances on any of the issues. What is your response to that idea?
Well, I guess you could say that's absolutely true, but it's not. Of course, I have opinions, but my personal opinion doesn't matter. It's what is best for the county. I know somebody wants me to come out and say, yes, I'm for RDA 2. Yes, I'm for growth. No, I'm not for growth. I'm against this. You know what? It's not before me to vote on. So if I say I absolutely stand for this today, then I am no better than anybody else. I've already made my decision before it's before me to vote on, and I just will not do that. I just won't. You can love me, hate me, whatever, but I will not say that I'm going to do this or that. I can tell you how I would approach a resolution to the problem, how I would try to figure out what the best solution is. But for me to come out and say that I'm absolutely opposed to something is just not the way I work. So, you know, if you want to knock me down for saying I don't stand for anything, great. I don't stand for anything, which is absolutely wrong. I stand for working together. I stand for being objective. I stand for trying to find the best possible solution, not my particular point of view. And because if you have your own stance and your own opinion, that means you're not listening to anybody else. And I just won't do that. I will listen to as many people who want to share their opinions with me as I could possibly handle.
On the slaughterhouse project, there is no general industrial zoning in Douglas County, and construction from the ground up will take 2 years. What would you be willing to do to cross the line to the other side to expedite zoning changes and construction?
So I've always said that if it's a viable project and demonstrates the need, then that's where we would go. So if there's a plan presented that is viable, that validates their point and isn't adverse to um, the neighboring property rights, then we work to push that forward. The county has overwhelmingly said that they are in support of a slaughterhouse or or a meat facility, and that's what I think we should be doing, is pushing forward to that. So if there is a project presented, everything is valid, then absolutely I would support that. And it's one of those things that, again, Mr. Penzel brought it up at the meeting, if not here, where? And so we all agree that we want it. So we all have to agree also that if the place is found that meets a majority of the requirements, then we should be pushing forward for that.
Here's an honest question. What does a county commissioner do?
So the county commissioner is in charge of oversight of the budget. They direct the county manager, and they are responsible for approving ordinances, adjustments to the ordinances, variances. So these developments. So they basically are trying to review and address those issues at the county level. So it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of review. It's like I said, directing the county manager, because he basically has oversight over the employees and the county directives. And then, trying to represent the people and the community as best as you can in those issues.
Another question from chat. What are your thoughts on how the budget is being handled currently? And what ideas do you have on how the budget should be allocated?
So I'm not a big finance guy. So I have, gone out and talked to people who are. And, one of my friends, when I was at the assessor's office, ended up leaving there and was moved over to the finance department in Carson City. So he's another one that I've talked to try to learn more. So what it looks like is we need to start and back up and do zero-based budget, which means every department starts with a zero budget, and then they have to prioritize all of their expenditures and their purchases and say, okay, so this is number one priority, this is number two priority, and then you build on that, and you'd have to start to compare and contrast the different priorities of the different departments to fund those back forward. Because one of the other methods is doing like a cost plus or something like that. So pardon me, I don't know all the terms 100%, but the idea is you take what their budget was last year, and then you add your cost on top of that for this year's percent increase, and then you roll again. But my experience was that we would get to the end of our fiscal year, and if we had money left, we would start buying stuff that we needed so that we didn't lose our budget for the next year. And that's absolutely not the way that we need to be. We have to be a lot more prudent with our spending. So I'm definitely in favor of that. I believe that's the method that the county manager is also looking forward to. And we're going to have to really look at this when we come out of that at the midway level, with the budgets now, to see where the money's going to go and how we get through what are the shortfalls and prioritize where the spending goes.
Is the county commissioner a full-time job, and is it a paid position?
It is characterized as not a full-time job, but it definitely is going to take a significant amount of time. I'm planning to continue to work as much as I can as still being a commissioner, and it does pay, but honestly, I don't I don't know what the exact numbers are. I mean, that was not why I was doing it. I would have to look to see what that is. I believe it's somewhere in the 20,000-ish range. I'm not, honestly don't know. Um, like I said, that's not important to me. What's important to me is maintaining that the community can um, move forward and be prosperous in the future. So that's what my motivation is. The amount of time from talking to previous commissioners, it can be 20 hours one week and 30 hours the next week, and that's really not something that is out of range for me. I've been a full-time basketball coach at the high school at the same time as I've continued to work my business. So 60-hour weeks is not something that's strange to me. So um, I don't see that as a problem. I know I'm going to have to take a hit on my business and not be able to spend as much time there as I possibly could, but um, that's just something that I feel like needs to be done. And if as many people as have given me support believe that I can do it, then I'm absolutely all in.
I only have a couple more questions left. So just to those that are able to submit any questions, if you have any final burning questions that you want to ask him during this time, please submit them to the chat. One of the questions is, there is a growing discrepancy between the upper and middle class in the US. Do you support wage growth? And do you have any ideas on how you could close that gap as a county commissioner?
Wow, that's a big one. Um, Honestly, I don't have an exact answer for that. There is a wage gap, but at the same time, I feel like there's always been a wage gap. You have to start somewhere, and you have to be willing to start somewhere. That work ethic thing is real, and I've known lots of people that said, I wouldn't take that job, it doesn't pay enough. Well, you're not getting paid anything, so you should take that job and learn and work your way up. And I feel like sometimes that's a lost idea, that you start at the bottom and work your way up. Everybody kind of feels like they're entitled to more, that entitlement mentality. So you got to find somewhere in the middle. Yes, everybody has value, but you also have to put in the effort and start somewhere. So are you going to make as much money as you think you should right out of high school, right out of college? Probably not. And possibly you will. But you got to recognize that you got to start somewhere. Like I said, during the recession, I took a job that was, I want to say I was $15 an hour maybe, and supporting 3 kids. So yeah, I was doing everything I possibly could. And that was starting somewhere. That's recognizing that you've maybe got to take a step back. Maybe you got to take a job that is not in your career, but could lead to your career. The kid that works for me came out of the Army, and he's not able to do what he learned in the Army because he wasn't 21 yet. So he couldn't drive the big 10-wheelers like he was in the Army. So he came to work for me because I knew him from teaching in high school, and knew he was a good kid, solid worker, and had that work ethic. So things are there. The methods are there. It may not be immediate, but you've got to be willing to put the work in.
And I don't have any other last questions besides this very last one. And I think it's a great way to wrap up questions tonight. What would being a county commissioner and a public official mean to you?
Wow. What would it mean to me? Well, obviously it would mean a lot. I like the idea of being part of something bigger than myself. I guess the nearest example that's popping into my head would be the opening ceremonies of the Carson Valley Little League last year. That was something new to me. I've been part of it, but I had never been part of the planning. And so there was a handful of people that put that together and did all the work. And you sit out there and you look around and you see how many people are there smiling, how many kids are in uniform. And you know that you had a part of that. in creating that for everybody. Then you come back out to the games and you see the kids in uniform and you see the things happening, you see the cheering, and you realize how you are just a small cog in a community, and you got to do that. I mean, that's one of those things that I love. I got to be part of somebody else's experience, good or bad. That's something that means a lot to me. I've always enjoyed that. Coaching, the reward there was to see a player do something that you taught them in practice and have them be successful and see that smile. I mean, you just can't, the motion for that is just, you can't put that into words. To be able to help somebody achieve something else and affect their lives is just amazing. It's incredible. It's one of the most rewarding things of coaching and teaching and volunteering that I've ever experienced. So that's what it means to me to have people have their faith in me. Is just amazing. The endorsements I've gotten is incredible. I just can't express the gratitude that win or lose, this experience for me is amazing. And I hope that when the votes come, that they come my way, because I would love to continue to do this. And I know there's going to be lots of hardships, and I know that that there'll be mud slung and all that stuff. But if I can affect change for any one person, then I would love to do that. So that's all I have on that one. How are we doing on time?
It's 7:24. Do you want to take a few minutes just to wrap up your final thoughts?
Wow, my final thoughts.
For this
the rest
moment.
of the story. I think that's this week. I think the endorsements have really come through, and I think that's a big thing that I would really like to say thank you. The fact that so many people have asked me for signs to put them up and support me in this position, it's just incredible. And I mean, like I said, I don't know how to say how encouraging that is, how empowering that is, and that sense of responsibility to everybody that supported me and has put their faith in me. I do have a huge, I feel a lot of pressure there to do well for those people. And that's the one thing I think I can promise above all, is that I will absolutely do my best to represent all those people that have put their faith in me. And I will absolutely do everything I can to not let those people down. And it's just kind of an incredible experience so far. And I thank everybody that's supported me, throughout everything I've been through, because I do owe everything to this community one way or another. And I do feel a great need to give back. So I think that's where I'll leave it. I'll start getting emotional if I go too far with that. So we don't want to see that.
Well, and with that, before everyone logs out tonight, I want to make sure to mention that there is a town hall debate on Monday, May 4th, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen real quick with that information. So it's Monday, May 4th. It's a virtual town hall debate. You can watch it in a few different ways on the connected TV platforms. And I believe there's going to be some online streaming as well. So with that, please tune in. It's the first one that I think, Nathan, you're getting to participate in because of shutdown and whatnot.
Right. Oh, I have one more on that too, Renee. My son went through and did a tutorial video on how to go in and adjust your voter status. And so I'm tasking him now, since he did such a good job on that. I was impressed. He's going to do a tutorial on how to log in to the virtual town hall. So we will be putting that up. I'll put it up on Facebook and on the blog, on the website. So please do not fear the technology. We will help and make sure that you're able to see and participate.
That's awesome. Thank you. thank you so much for everyone for participating and showing up. We appreciate you wanting to get to know Nathan and get to know him as a candidate. And we will be doing this again next Thursday at 6:30. And he will also be participating in that town hall debate on Monday, May 4th at 6 p.m. For more information about him, you can go to nathantolbertdistrict5.com and you can sign up for his emails and all sorts of other different reminders. So thank you so much, and everyone have a good night.